Welcome to AI for Good, the leading action-oriented, global and inclusive United Nations platform on AI. Organized by ITU, in partnership with 40 UN sister organizations, and co-convened with Switzerland. The goal of AI for Good is to identify practical applications of AI to advance the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and scale those solutions for global impact. In today's session, we're counting on you to use the live video wall feature to ask questions and post comments to help create an engaging discussion. We encourage you to stay until the end to chat, connect, ask questions, and network with our distinguished panelists and world-class AI experts in the neural network. It is now time to kick off the session and welcome our first speaker. The floor is yours.
Well, good afternoon and good morning, everybody. Very happy to have you also within the session. AI for Good. So happy to see you, Tom. Apparently, you putting me on a hot burner to answer all the hot questions that Immersion4 will have to answer. And so I will try to do my best in order to do that. Nice to see you, Tom. Welcome, everyone.
Absolutely. What a pleasure. Hi, everyone. My name is Tom Ye. I'm a technology geek and philanthropist in Silicon Valley. And then today we have the pleasure to introduce you our esteemed speaker on the panel, Serge Conesa, the CEO of Immersion4. So he'll be sharing with all of us the latest on the industry. And I want you to all have the benefit of his expertise in our short hour. So let's dive right into the session. So Serge, what about the energy consumption today?
Well, as we know, the world is all about energy. And especially, I would say, in the era where we are now, we are all talking about producing data, and data is produced by electronics, meaning energy, meaning electricity. And it's not only about data, it's about, I would say, our lifetime. If we look since 1912, I would say the humanity went from 2 billion people to 8 billion people. So at the time, 2 billion people, plastic bag and pollution was okay because the nature was there in order to pulverize, I would say, everything we do. Today, 8 billion people in 22, meaning 100 years later, humanity doesn't, I would say, the nature doesn't buffer, I would say, the mistake that the humanity is doing, or simply the lifestyle that the humanity is doing. If we look in 2016, we had the energy consumption on data center, which representing 5% of the world energy, 3% of the greenhouse, and 626 billion liters of water. No one was really paying attention to that because at the time it was fantastic, connecting over internet. No one knew even what the data center was all about outside of, sorry to say, Tom, gig like you, guys like me. But, at the end of the day, people were looking at this on the phone. Oh my God, we can go over internet, we can call, we can exchange data, we can browse, we can go on the web. And that was the entire revolutions of what the world is all about. And the problem is, if we look at us in 2025, this energy consumption becomes absolutely exponential, plus the pollution related to it. So what we are talking about, we are just talking about 2025, 20% of the world energy, 10% of the greenhouse, and over 3 trillion liters of water. If we continue at that speed, there's going to be a massive issue, knowing that data is the 8th natural resources in the planet. So we are producing as crazy speed. We are talking about zettabyte, okay, and dozens and hundreds of zettabyte and thousands of zettabyte. And I'm going to be stopping there because I think there is numbers where I don't even want to count. But one thing is clear, you and I are going to be dead sometime, but our data is still going to remain. And our data means data center. So what do we do about that? Tom, I'm getting bad. I'm returning the question.
Oh my God, sounds like we're being hit with the situation head on, isn't it?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm thinking about a very basic and simple example, and I'm going to make everyone who's listening to us just imagine that this bottle in front of me is a cup of champagne, and we want to cool off the champagne. So what do? Do we cool off the entire room where there is the champagne? Or we just cool off the champagne itself? Well, unfortunately, no one can answer, but I'm pretty sure some of them could start to laugh, and many others who may Serge were tired by what you're saying, and I can understand that too. Well, if we cool off the champagne, it's Immersion4. It's basically the picture that you have here right on my back, where you can see servers right here, straight into the liquid within our system. And if we cool off the entire room, it's a data center. So obviously the effort is not the same. Matter of fact, if we are really looking about the energy consumption, okay, from a data center, 60 to 70% goes to cooling, and 30 to 40 at most goes to the IT load, which is at the end of the day, a big loss of energy, because we have, when we cool off an entire room, when we cool off a rack, somewhere there is an hotspot and there is a massive air circulation in order to solve the hotspot. If we go a little bit more technical, and if we really realize, I would say, well, let's follow the fan, so to speak, chain. There is fan on the top of the processor. Then there is fan on the server. Then there is ventilation on the rack, and there is in-row. Then there is cluster. Then there is hot eye, cold eye. Then there is an HVAC. And then there is an AC to apply an hash rate normalization in order to have the right temperature depending on the destination of the data center. That's a lot of fan. That's a lot of moving parts, which at the end impact directly, I would say, the MTBF of the product, because MTBF are defined based on two things: temperature swing and the mechanical vibration. And if we look at that, why do we have that issue? What do you think, Tom? Do you think it's because of the way we are cooling?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, as I hear you describe the situation, it feels like there's so much unnecessary waste, right? And then in addition to that, there's so much unnecessary complication we're introducing into the system as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. And in fact, this is based on the simple fact. And by the way, I have to say that I'm sorry, but you will have to plead guilty as well as I do, because, well, obviously we are before internet was there. We cool electronics using air. Air is an insulator, is not a thermal conductor. Water is a thermal conductor. Liquid is a thermal conductor. So we need to change the paradigm. And as long as we use air, that means that we have also to protect the electronics, to protect the PCBs against external event. External event means electrostatic, means dust, means corrosions, means humidity, means temperature swing, means mechanical vibrations, means storage of electronics on a certain place, and so on and so forth. If we use what we see, I said, on the back, which is the Immersion4 technology, only by immersing any kind of electronic components, any kind of PCBs with the connectivity, electrical, data, and fiber optics, we basically do not need any more, I would say, all those protections which are needed when we use air-cooled, which is, at the end of the day, serving, I would say, one of the crucial problems that we're facing today, which is e-waste. Months ago, ITU, gave me the chance to voice again about, I would say, Immersion4, and to be part of talking about greening our own house. And right before, it was a lady from WHO, the World Health Organization, saying that 18 million women and 13 million children in Africa are recycling e-waste. Recycling meaning putting electronics on fire. And one container out of 3 are shipped to Africa from Europe. Well, we are producing more and more data. So basically, those women and those kids will have a lot of work to be done, except if we solve that problem. One of the responses to solve that problem is immersive cooling, full immersion, the way we are. And as you know, we are jointly working on a project like that, allow you to avoid all those, what we call conventional coating and the brominated, and allowing in the same time, to have the electronics to be fully protected with this connectivity. So then it's very nice answer to the e-waste. But not only, in fact, because that's nice to protect against e-waste, but no one is really making money out of e-waste. What's
right.
really matter? What is the value chain? The value chain is for the data center to have the best return on investment and the best TCO. And if we look today, the TCO on a traditional data center, 30%, more or less. With an Immersion4 data center, we're talking about 90%, up to 90% TCO. And when we talk about return on investment, you have a return on investment on traditional data center. Let's say, I'm going to be very generous. I said 10 years. It's mostly 15 years because normally it's some kind of a 5% per year without saying that. If you look about it, Immersion4 technology, we're talking about in less than a year. So those are numbers.
That's really impressive. I mean, less than a year, right?
Absolutely. And why? Because as you can see on the back, okay, you right here, just on my back, you have a system, okay, which by the way, which is in our lab, and which is put clearly on the floor, servers inside, no temperature control outside, but liquid temperature controlled. And that's where we make the entire change. Because through that liquid circulating, collecting the heat generated by the electronics, no matter if the server is idle, clocked, overclocked, no matter what kind of application, if you're talking about AI or mail servers or whatsoever, then we just need to make in that room what we call a water loop. And through that water loop to collect the calorie within our DTM system, we call our system DTM, meaning dynamic thermal management system, in order to keep the temperature steady at the level where the operators of the data center want to have, so to speak, is bad. So that's what Immersion4 is, in fact, really all about. Nothing more, nothing less, more complicated than cooling a cup of champagne.
Well, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because liquid has higher density and then also has a high specific heat than air, obviously, and that will enable it to absorb more heat and provide a very stable environment for the machine. And stability of temperature is a hallmark of the longevity of the electronics, isn't it?
Absolutely. In fact, if you make, I would say a comparison between air cool and let's say immersive cooling for the liquid we are using called ice coolant from Immersion4, the heat transfer between air and electronics, we're talking about 1,500 times better.
Wow.
If you compare that water to air, we're talking about 3,000 times better. Why we are just half in between? Simply for one reason. It is due to the fact that liquid is having dielectric properties, 58,000 volt dielectric resistance, plus, okay, the liquid 100% synthetic have zero nocivity for the biodiversity and the human, let's say the humanity as well. And we guarantee our liquid 25 years in terms of stability and the capacity to do that. Well, very often I'm making the joke, okay, why 25 years? Because that's a pretty open number. Well, you know, let's say I'm on the second half of my life. I'm not going to disclose my age, but where I am right now, plus 25, I should be up there. So if you want to complain about me, well, they will have to send the complaint up there, and I'm not going to be there to answer. So I'm pretty sure we're going to see us soon. One thing is clear is right now we are living in one planet, and it's very important, okay, to understand sustainability. I have been very pleased when ITU in 2019, find Immersion4 and give us, the best use of ICT and Global Excellence Award. It was at the very beginning of the AI for Good program invented by Stefani Baraki, and who have been also one of the judge. Is an amazing person. And what I like on the AI for Good is the for good, because at the end of the day today, we really, really, really need to do everything for good. On our side, the first principle, which is driven Immersion4, eco-conservation, using energy for what matters.
That's right.
What matters is the IT load, not the cooling. And it's not about the building, because any building should be able to welcome a data center. Then we should be able to distribute a data center like we distribute the natural resources. Like we distribute cogeneration, trigeneration, heat and cold, okay, directly within a city. Because for me, a smart city must be smart energy. So
Absolutely.
maybe we can work on that in that regard. But please,
it's definitely
I'm talking too much.
But sounds like the whole system has been figured out. I think historic in the past, nobody has sort of have as complete of a solution of what you have created here.
Well, in fact, I would love to say, though, I am the one, but no, I'm not. This has been, we said, well thought by other people. First of all, if you look the way your house is heating and cooling from the beginning of time, we're talking about water circulation within your building, your apartment, and your house, and going to a heat pump of any kind.
Sure.
So nothing brand new under the sun. On the same time, the first one who really had use over what we call liquid cooling was what's the name of that company? I'm losing the name. Cray. Was Cray 2, you know, and it was this liquid with a lot of bubbles. It was a 3M liquid, okay, used at that time, which is two-phase. What the particularity of that liquid is, when it's touching the hot spot, it becomes gas. Okay, then after that, become liquid again and goes down. The downside of that liquid is, unfortunately, greenhouse impact is you need to stop the entire product for the servicing. You need to refill the product because there is evaporation and there is some greenhouse when you produce it. And on the top of that, it's quite expensive. So really what Immersion4 and the innovation of Immersion4 is not only the liquid, but is also the system which have been designed. On the system that you see here on the back, and I will put myself a little bit more on the side, okay, you basically, this way will be better. So you will basically see the two server here and here, and you see here on the side the management system. And right there is a pumping and a heat exchanger, and the cool loop is right on the back. And the system is simple as that. But everything is done in order to keep it completely steady, taking our set from any device, 1U, 2U, 4U, 8U, 14 years, okay, when we speak about certain router, and having electricity, fiber optics, and data straight emerge. Now, that is what we call the fundamental of electronics. That's what you know, that's what I know, okay? Of course, you have been working on algorithm, and that's become another story. Because when we are talking about sustainability, well, we need to go back to the root. But when we can have this electronics becoming sustainable, because we solve the waste problem, because we simplified the design of a PCB and the design of a chipset, then we can also in the same time have no more issue talking about our set temperatures based on the fact that the processor is clocked or overclocked or not. Knowing that today is not about the story of a processor being hot, because we're talking about CPU, GPU, FPGA, ASIC, memory. Everything's become heat sensitive on those days. Then you save a lot of energy. Now apply AI, and what AI bring, which is 4 components for me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you're the expert in that domain. I'm talking about computer vision, deep learning, machine learning, data mining. And that's what AI is all about. And AI, by taking the data, using the right algorithm for really what matters, rewriting the program that we are using today in order to be able to continue on the sustainability chain. Okay, then on the top of that, we can add the logic of virtual servers. Then we can add the logic of true software for what really we are using computers. And in that case, we have a complete sustainable system from the electronics component to the applications, okay, we are running. And because at the end of the day, as a user, final user, it's all about the application. The rest,
all of us are users, right?
Exactly.
And the usage is just keep on exponentially increasing. I mean, the notion of AI is computing power, isn't it? And then there's just an undying thirst in the world from everybody to want more and more computing power, more and more graphics, and more customization, right? More and more storage everywhere.
Absolutely. And in fact, this is why, you know, when we design our system, we put the entire management system, you know, within a rack. If you can see here right on my back, okay. And this is box is basically the universal language of every single DTM system done by Immersion4. Because at the end of the day, forget the technology Immersion4 has developed. For me, one thing is really important is, you know, the roll-up right on the back?
Yes.
Why it is written, because the planet matter. This is what the for good, my version of the for good means. And this is what we carry on every single show, because at the end of the day, okay, everything's have to be done in order to preserve what we receive as a gift, because we never, ever, ever paid the rent. We just took. I know I'm turning to another sensitive subject, but it's a big subject, and energy is a big subject. So
I can
at the
definitely
end,
I can definitely see your passion, right? I mean, this is for your mission, and you know, and it seems like you already have the whole system figured out. It's very refined. It's not, you know, it's beyond the garage. So, what do you think is the biggest barriers? Why are people not jumping on with all these benefits? Right? It feels like it's a no-brainer, right? You save some money. It saves the world. Less complication. We went all around.
If you allow me to correct you on one thing, you said he saved the world. Let's put it clearly. The world is fine. We are just not fine, but the world is fine, and we'll be way better without us. But that's another story. So why this technology is not spread out? Well, because from the beginning of time, we have designed servers to be cooled by air. And because we design data center and we feed an entire industry for racks, in-row, clusters, big buildings. And at the end of the day, no one cares about the insulation. No one cares about the size of the building we're talking about. No one cares about the energy there. In fact, any data center today is being paid not on energy efficiency, is paid on data resiliency. That's the reason why. And on the same time around, we are, and I'm sorry to say, because I'm guilty as well as you do, so because I don't want to be the only one guilty, allow me to take you with me, we are rats of habit. We always, because it's easy, we put servers in the rack, and then we plug it in, and because we don't think. And what is important to look at is, in fact, we should create immersive cooling system, the DTM system that we have here, where all the servicing is done like an air-cooled rack. And that's what we have done. Because what you see here, right in front of me, you see the servers, but right here on the back on the side, you see dry compartment where you put PDUs, switches, patch panel, routers, because some of them doesn't need to be into the liquid. PDUs cannot be into the liquid. And those places are like in the rack, you have components, you have accessories for the servers, because servers need two types of cabling. Internet cabling and power cabling. And that's what basically your chassis should incorporate everything. Now, the system we have on the back in terms of management is about thermal management, thermal regulation, because what you need to be sure that the server that you can see here, for example, this one is running at 20C, and maybe this one that you have here on the side is running at 40C, and should be completely independent. And the system itself, the DTM system, should not, I would say, having spreaded heat inside the data room, which is our case. So that's also one of the reasons why it looks pretty good, by the way, good, transparent, and we put some love into our product. But we didn't to steal systems, because still carry the heat inside the room. Wow. And we can, if you want to do it, you need to use materials that will keep the heat inside the DTM system to collect the maximum calories through the heat exchanger in every single compartment, as you can see within our DTM system, and put that on the cold, sealed water loop, meaning no water consumption, in order to have the calorie exchange. So Immersion4 for that, basically I put also branded and not only many things, but one thing's called liquid to liquid, another one that's making the cloud cool again. For that matter, we have a video, and I don't know if Fabien is listening to us, but there is a video we can pass, because we can put together right now, because the video is showing what internet was a benefit for humanity, but what is the demise of not internet, because internet is knowledge, AI is performancing, is enhancing, is getting information, is program optimization, but it is the downside of the energy used for, at the end of the day, a virtual life. And I'm sorry, but my life in this planet, I prefer to live it. I'm not we are not data. We are very human. And as very human, we need air and water. Data center doesn't need air and water. And that's the issue today.
Well, it sounds like you're solving the water situation as well, because a lot of data centers actually do take up, consume a lot of water. I mean, in value, water is becoming a very valuable, resource, limited resources right now, isn't it?
Yeah, in fact, you have the, like we said, I said in our communication, we leave ice coolant, which is the liquid developed by Immersion4 for data center to electronics, and we leave air and water to the human and the biodiversity. And in fact, everything can be reduced to a very simple sentence like that. As soon as you know exactly how to do what you do with the liquid in order to preserve both, preserve humanity, which is biodegradable, no impact on humanity, biodiversity. Liquid doesn't to be recycled, completely molecularly stable, and in the same time, completely preserving what you and I need, as well as our family, which is air and water. And the system you have on the side is built for decades, so can be turned over and over. So that's what we do.
So how common, percentage-wise, is liquid cooling today?
Well, there's not so much, and I haven't looked really at latest report on the liquid cooling. It's fairly today, I was taking momentum, especially on crypto mining. Interesting to see that people used to say crypto mining, those are, I would say, the how you call that, the dirty money, the burn too much energy, and which is true, by the way. By the way, printing bill costs energy as well. And well, those people right now are definitely the one very, very active, okay, on cooling. I would say the other way, liquid. That is good. That is a good news. That is now already at that momentum. You have to see here in the regions, there is some customers who are way more than willing, but cannot disclose more than that. Can just say the one that we already deploy, like Ernst & Young, IQ Energy, SNCF, City of Las Vegas. And because, well, by the way, very well, City of Las Vegas, you have been there with me. So that's because that's matter. It matters for two things. It matters because of use of resources and the capacity, especially on water. And it matters in terms of money of the taxpayer. So on big scale, what Immersion4 address is government, on the government level, on the country level, is data sovereignty, being able to keep your data at home.
That's right.
And in the same time, energy sovereignty, part of it. Because at the end of the day, at 5% of the world energy, this is 468 nuclear plants of 1 gigawatts. 20% of the world energy in 2025, energy consumption by data centers is 4 times that. So if I was making a simple calculation, looking at if I'm changing all the data center in the world, let's say I can do that on the, snapping my finger, and I'm having just all replaced by Immersion4 technology. We're talking about 4% of the world electricity used by actual data centers, which is saving 1,500 nuclear plants of 1 gigawatt. So today, when I'm hearing energy consumptions, when I'm hearing then, renewable energy or alternative and everything, well, wait a minute, let's be realistic. Eco-conservation is the best energy in the world to power us. That's and right. Everything should be based on eco-conservation, but not only pointing you and I, because we leave the light open or those kind of things. Of course, this is important, but also looking the entire chain in order to do that. And at the end of the day, there is a basic, I would say, the basic energy today, which is used by the entire industrial world, okay, from the beginning of time. We call it oil and gas. but the one is the gas.
Yeah.
With gas, we create oil, and gas is best, is the man, is in fact is the fundamental of our civilization. So if you want to be less inclined to use those energies, we need first to reduce it. And by reducing those energies, we can save tremendous amount of energy for the sake of humanity.
That's right. That's right. And there's no downsides to this, right? I mean, literally, our appetite for data has increased, and it's going to continue to increase over time. And there's no reason why we shouldn't use it more inefficiently. And yeah, it definitely some of the most progressive cities, like some of the meetings that we had, Las Vegas, they were very excited about the idea to be able to bring this to the forefront and be as leaders of this. So I have a question from the audience. You know, they're really excited that they were coming in. So how compatible is Immersion4 with the current servers? And how can we retrofit existing server to be compatible with Immersion4 technology?
That's a very good question. In fact, that was the first, because as we all know, acceptance, adoption is key. And being able to take the legacy of any servers of any brand is very important. So in fact, outside of respecting the U, which is the server format that you can find on any kind of air-cooled rack, any servers, any router, any switch is compatible with Immersion4. That's one thing. The only modification you will have to make on an actual server will be to replace the hard drive by an SSD hard drive. Okay, because a mechanical hard drive don't work, okay, with Into the Liquid. Or let's say the performance are so degraded that I will prefer to say don't work at all. And but today the good news is, because of the market trend, every server today is equipped with SSD hard drive. And so right now, I would say the bottleneck, which was the hard drive mostly, okay, is not needed. Now, another cool effect is when you have an air-cooled server, if you look at, I would say, the GPUs or the CPU, you have the processor, then you have an heatsink, then you have, I would say, a path right under, and you have this complete air circulation. All those calculations are pretty massive, because well, how the size of the heatsink on the top and having the right flow, okay, in order to circulate on the top of the server and so on and so forth, to keep the server at the right level of temperatures, knowing that the server can be overclocked and overclocked. Why not? Because there is always gig, so to speak. We want to take the best of any component, of any processing power. So we simplified all of that, because we don't need that anymore. And because the liquid, by collecting the heat 15 times better than the air, okay, avoid all those calculations, and at the same time have, I would say, impact on the size of the power supply, because basically the power supply is used for the processing power, not for the cooling within the server and the processing power. So the compatibility to any brand today in the market, any type of connectivity from 1 gig to 400 gig, of course, any kind of data cable, any kind of materials, and any kind of server, 1U, 2U, by the way, on my back, we're talking about 2U server, 4U, 8U, server up, server down, depending the way you want them. So that's how we are. And of course, I'm looking forward to the day we're going to be creating PCBs and components straight dedicated to immersive cooling, because that day we will make e-waste history. When I said history, meaning no need to speak about e-waste anymore. And we can save today, we're talking about over 30 million of lives only in Africa, and how much in other countries.
Yep, that's absolutely correct. And then it sounds also like the system, because the way it's designed, you can actually, since each component has an optimal temperature operating range, and the way your system is designed, you can also customize the environment specific for particular components as well.
Absolutely. And in fact, this is even going further than that. Any building can become a data center, because you don't need to have 3 7, 5, 7, 10 meters high data center with this entire air circulation. Okay, and for depending if it is a winter, the summer, depending if you want to have, depending the kind of the temperature you want to have inside, or humidity, you can have any room, you can have any building becoming a data center with our technology. If you have an AC, okay, within our room, the AC is to dry the air, is not to cool the room. You can have 40 degrees. So that means you can tomorrow have data centers in any place in the world. Because at the end of the day, when you really look at what is a data center, if you want to make the modelization, when you create an air-cooled data center, you do what we call upfront sizing. Upfront sizing for, let's say a 500 kilowatts data center. 500 kilowatts data center is 115 racks, 5 kilowatts per rack, 270 square meters. That's math, period. Well, if you do the same, and of course, in addition to that, raised floor, high ceiling, chemical fire suppressor, hot aisle, cold aisle, in-row, air circulations, hatchway on the top at 18 C, maybe 20 C, and that's okay. This is the reason why it is so freezing when you go to the data center, and as well, very noisy. Well, if you take an Immersion4 data center, 270 square meters, 106 DTM system, the same one that I have on the back here, and it is 406 megawatts on the same surface.
Wow.
3 meters high, between 2.5 to 3 meters high, no noise, could be 40 degrees in the room, and a water loop in order to be able to collect the heat from every system and to keep the liquid on the right temperatures that the people are going to be deciding what is the best for each electronic on every single compartment. And that's it. And this is the entire pay-as-you-grow solution. Well, basically, you put system one after another based on the demand. You don't have to have this complete upfront sizing with this upfront capex and making all of these together. Well, for this, you need standard. And this is where ITU plays a big role. And one thing have been, I would say, we have been very lucky is, was to be, I would say, recognized by ITU. And because I said, well, can we be part of standard? And that's now clearly, I would say, our big move, okay, to do that together. Because if you really look at in 2019, when ITU recognized Immersion4, well, I've been called 4 times on stage. I was very surprised because I'm not a big person.
Well, so they do believe in doing good for sure, right?
Absolutely. And one thing I said during the last speech was, what made me very warm, very happy for what I saw is that ITU understood that data is energy. Yeah. If you look at the roots of ITU, if you and I are speaking today over video conference call and over mobile, over anything in the application, it's because they have created all the standards allowing any countries in the world over any networks, any carriers, any media, fiber optics, data, whatever, to be able to carry the voice and not to carry the video and what we have now. But data is as well as energy. And ITU handling the energy, because as data is energy, 20% of the world energy, it's energy, okay, makes total sense. So we need to have the same kind of standards in order to design data center for good. And this is why when Stefani Baraki created that program AI for Good, and he said, well, I give it to the United Nations. I said, I like that. That's the right thing to do. And before that, I was met another gentleman called David Schwick at the United Nations. He was the director of cabinet of the UN. And he was telling me about the SDGs. And SDGs make sense. If you look at the 17 goal of the SDGs, this is the way we should have designed every single business we have done today. But this is not the case. The good news is, well, and I'm sorry for the ITU, they have to choose what kind of SDGs they want to show for Immersion4. Well, we had the chance, let's say by luck, to do the 17. But in the same time, there is many other things. ESG compliance, it's very important. And another thing, Sharia law. And people said, oh my God, you're speaking about terrorists. No, Sharia is in fact a way to do business invented 17 centuries ago by the Arabs. In order to have an equitable business. And we are also compliant to that. Because at the end of the day, we want to federate, we want to ease the acceptance from the legacy of electronics from any buildings in order to welcome a data center within any building and putting also a distributed architectures to be lighter on the grid, to reduce the risk. But mostly because data is everything, to be able to collect the data at the edge and to process the data at the edge. So we can, at the end of the day, having hybrid public data center up to hyperscale, because the system you have here on the back, you make 1, 2, you can connect 100 or 1,000 of them. It's the same thing.
Yeah, I remember touring some data center, even state-of-the-art data center. They're extremely complex. The amount of infrastructure that you have to put on just to put on a data center, the cooling, the fans, and the fire system, the safety system that is involved, right? I mean, it's tremendous. And I can definitely imagine, I mean, from your picture in the back, you will be able to reduce a lot of, in addition to efficiency, you also reduce tremendous amount of hazard. I mean, the boards are inside the liquid. I mean, you don't need all these fire suppressant anymore.
In fact, you're raising a very good point. The fire system, okay, to protect our an Immersion4 data center is a classical one. You don't need the chemical, our system, the Novec, the way it is today, which is, by the way, very nocive as well. And in fact, you don't need really anything, because what you have, the major risk is overheating on the server. This is why you have the brominated, layer on the top of the PCBs. And mostly the issue is temperature swing, making the server so hot, so then servers, start on fires. And we have some data center where the issue, some of them in France, I'm pretty sure some other in the world, without pointing fingers. And of course, lucky that we have such a system, but in that case, you lose everything. And server, what they don't like temperature swing. This is not what they like. Here, for example,
it's also easier to be lit on fire, right? Because of they're directly exposed to the air and oxygen. And here it's in the liquid.
And you're raising a very good point, and thank you for saying that, because when an electronic is on fire, it is in the case of a data center is under a controlled environment. Imagine that 17% of the electronics only is recyclable in the world, and the rest goes to African countries and some other place in the world to be recycled, meaning to be burned. That's some things that we are breathing. And at the end of the day, I was watching something on the television, and the people are telling, well, this is something that basically we breathe, we have headache, we have stomach ache, we have many problems, we have breathing issue, we have length issue. But more than anything, which I didn't know, is those chemicals goes into the body and then are transmitted from generation to generation. So that means when you have that inside, if you have a baby, it will be contaminated as well. And we're not talking about, by the way, every life matters. Okay, so I'm not talking about 1 life or 10 lives make a difference or millions make a difference, because every life is very precious. But we're talking about here dozens of millions of life for data. So where is the social responsibility? And at the end of the day, where is our own responsibility as a father? It is really what we want to leave to our children. And I think all guys and I'm taking you with me on that one, need to put our knowledge or the small understanding we have in order to fix those problems, in order to understand that data is energy. Because at the end of the day, if you go to a data center owner or operator and you say, well, who's having your background on electronics, who understand what's that electronics, and you can be sure they understand everything about virtual machine and servers and connecting and everything, but very few understand also the electronics. Well, data center is only and solely about electronic cooling. So
that's right. And no user is having a diet on data, because they're not thinking about their impact on the environment, right? They're playing more and more games. The games are getting more sophisticated. The AI behind the algorithm behind the computer, there's getting more sophisticated, right? People want to chat more with higher fidelity now through voice and video. That all takes AI and computing power, which would drive up, right? All of that consumption. And then that's the entire chain altogether.
And you have the IoT, you have everything which is collecting those data and processing those data, cars, and any device, fridge, so on and so forth. Now we said smart metering, and then you continue. So there is a lot of good getting out of that, especially for optimizing, energy, optimizing resources. But it is not really used on that case. It is used on the case of how can I save money instead of how can I do good, and that's where the real problem is. So we do need to change that behavior, and changing the behavior for changing the behavior, humanity will not change. But changing the behavior by bringing a technology who's saving money, who's ease the problems, who facilitate the adoption, and at the end of the day, take nothing away from data. You can make the best algorithm on the top, you can use the best program there, okay, and it's natively because at the roots of the problem is solved. So then it's very easy to build up on the top. Otherwise, it's like placebo over placebo over a placebo, and then you go to conference like the COP26 and you hear, well, in 2030 and in 2040 and in 2050, well, guys, Immersion4 is doing COP26 yesterday. So what are you waiting? Why are we talking? And there is many companies like Immersion4 who have solutions who answer the problems now. So instead of spending the money on having those massive discussions and financing companies who talk about those greenwashing roadmap, maybe they should just look what is at the step, okay, at the corner, at the next door company, unknown, which can really seriously solve problems. And those problems are said impacting on everything, impact the energy chain from creation, storage, transportation, distribution, and the end use. And also can be used because, as we all know, when you produce energy, 10 to 15% is the over-the-top energy. So what about the load balancing of the grid? What about it? Because when the grid is unbalanced, everything goes down. And this is not a matter about energy production. It's a matter of just balancing the grid. So people have to rethink just energy in order to be balanced. It's like human. We need harmony. If there is no harmony, we're in war. Well, energy is the same. Let's bring harmony all over the place for good.
That sounds good. And then I have another question, which, I guess sounds all good, but do we have to change everything? It sounds like this is ready to go at this time, isn't it?
Well, it is ready to go. And can we change anything? Well, our behavior.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that we really need to change, because the rest, the technology is there and everything is launched. Everything is there. The legacy of electronics is covered. The future of electronics, I'm pretty sure there will be very smart people who have ideas right now, okay, in order to say, hey, we can do better with electronics and so on and so forth. Because at the end of the day, it is not you and me or our kids who are guilty using their phone and said, oh, you consume data. It's the big engine on the back, which is that we call the data factory. And those are the problems. Look in Netherlands. Netherlands was crying over the summer because they realized that Microsoft data center was 84 million liter of water, drinkable water used to cool data. And by the way, it's not only the only example. I was in Ireland and I wrote about that. When was that? It was in 2019. In fact, right before the ITU. And I was talking about the consequence of things. Ireland was the perfect place in the world. Few people, few number of people, a lot of green energy, not very much traditional energy, and a lot of renewable energy due to the way Ireland was built. And then all the data center came there because of the tax reason and many other reasons. Data center doesn't create job. And data centers means upgrading the grid, having more traditional plan, because renewable energy is not enough. And there is not a single data center today which can run on renewable energy. This is not true.
And you know what? The data factory
will continue until the time they change the airport. Sorry?
I said the data factory will continue to produce more and more data. It's not ending. And in addition to that, the challenge is that the world is not erasing any data. So they want to keep every piece of it. So you end up having existing data that you have to process.
Absolutely.
And then future data that we're generating at an exponential rate, right? It's amazing. So,
absolutely.
And
if you look at
audience, feel free to send more questions, definitely. Yeah. So one another audience
So
question
if you
how much of the heat is due to data movement versus computing processing? Any good sources on this?
well, heat and data processing, and let's say processing power. Heat and processing power are two things that really don't like. They like each other up to a certain level. After that, they don't like each other. For example, if the processor is getting too hot, then obviously his clock speed is going to slow down. And obviously the heat is not his friend. The heat, if you're looking, for example, GPUs like a 40C. At 40C, they run the best. Here we are. If you look at, I would say, Bitcoin mining, it's 60, 62. 62, you have the best rendering. Obviously, higher than that, then you decrease the performance. I would say lower than that in terms of heating, basically the processor doesn't run as much. But this is not like when it's overheating. So everything is about overheating, avoiding overheating. And in fact, the heat temperature on a steel, and only a liquid can provide you a steel temperature, is what matter. I think something that we like to show before going thing is, it's a video that I was doing before Greta. It was in 2018. And I would like to pass that video now, if you don't mind.
Sure, let's go for it.
In the beginning of 2000, internet became widely available worldwide, facilitating online access at home or through any mobile networks. In 2004, the social media revolution began. In 2016, the world became digital. Data center consumption grew exponentially to 5% of the world's consumption. They generated 3% of the greenhouse gas emission and consumed 626 billion liters of water per year. In 2016, 2/3 of the world's population did not have access to clean water at a certain time of the year. The world ecosystem and biodiversity are compromised by human activities, and populations requesting always more energy at any cost. Forecasts reveal that by 2025, data centers will represent 20% of the world's electricity consumption, 10% of the greenhouse gas emission, and more than 1 trillion liters of water. By 2030, data centers will represent 40% of the global electricity consumption.
Hey, Daddy. What did you do when you could have done something for me?
Making the cloud cool again.
Well,
Wow, thanks for the inspiration.
when I did that video,
yeah,
people told me, and every single marketing agency I've been working with told me, no, Serge, you cannot say that. You cannot do that. This is too no. I said, well, you know what? I'm going to say that because I mean it, and this is what I think. Greta then show up. And today, when I'm looking those dams, okay, with all the water, and I'm looking, for example, the Hoover Dam in the US, and among many others, and I'm looking, I would say, the stress in Pakistan and also China and all those places, and I'm looking at this water is going to be gone. In 48 hours, we're going to kill for water. Imagine that in 2016, 2/3 of the planet doesn't have access to clean water at a certain time of the year. In 2025, we're talking about 1.8 billion people will not have access to clean water. If you go right now to Chamonix in France, and we're close to Geneva, and you look at the glacier, they are gone. They are brown and black. I used to run them from the beginning to the top when I was a kid. I'm not going to even leave that to our kids. So what are we doing? what is wrong with us, honestly, as humanity? And the only thing which matters in that video is this little girl. Hey, daddy, what did you do when you can do some things for me? This is each of us making the right decision, one decision at a time. Otherwise, we need to clearly say to our children, when we go back as decision maker, I'm screwing your future. And it sounds rough, but this is the least things I can say today, because it pissed me off so bad to see a company like Immersion4, with the potential we have, with the problem we solve, okay, still facing a business plan, facing, we said, a reluctance of adoption because I don't have this habit or I'm not paid for it. Well, I am not paid for Immersion4. Immersion4 has been privately owned, and I have private investors, as you know, who follow my craziness, thinking that we can make it right. But it feels good, very, very good to make it right. And that's basically what we've done. And ITU, when they recognize us, that was the biggest award we can ever get. That's why we really want to make this as a standard. We should enforce what we do. And a technology like us, my dream will be to create the World Bank of Energy. And Immersion4 should belong to the World Bank of Energy, should never belong to humanity, because we will destroy it. So we're not about a business plan. We're about taking the legacy, taking the future, putting everything together, saving energy, and mostly not touching air contamination, air pollution, and water consumption. And that is the main objective that every single technology today should give to humanity, because we forgot the day we got the money, that because of the money, we don't know the cost of transformation from a seed to become a tomato on the shelf, and then that tomato to be dropped. No one knows that for every tomato we eat, 70% goes to garbage. Before that is not big, not round, not color enough, and 30% after that because the date is passed. So we only have 20% of it that we eat on the shelf because they are right there at the right time. So, but the effort of transformation from the seed to the fruit remain exactly the same. And this is the same for everything. Now, time. We don't have time.
Yeah.
Planet doesn't buffer us anymore.
That's
we are
right.
not going to redo the glacier. We are losing at an exponential rate everything we have, and we didn't pay the rent. That's what is left. Humanity will have to adapt. Now, what do? We let it go, or we still continue fighting? Well, hope. And I will say that to everyone who listens to us, the day hope is gone, this is the end of all of us. So let's keep the hope. Let's move very fast, very hard. Let's do everything we can to have technology like Immersion4 getting out for good. And ITU have this perfect slogan: AI for good, healthcare for good, everything for good, and immersion for good. This is why we have the number 4.
That's right. Immersion4 is going to make data cloud cool again. And it really sounds like, hey, you're on your live, it's a live mission. We can certainly hear it in your voice. And the product is ready, right? I mean, the solutions are there and people could jump on and execute right now. We definitely need people to take action. And then let's work together to create more impact for generations to come and make cloud cool again. So
absolutely.
So
and
with
then we
that,
can look at each other and say, you know what? We didn't waste our life. We did some things based on every single of us knowledge, and we come together. By the way, there is a sentence that I love in Zulu that I was by you also saying in 2019 at the ITU. It was Shlanganani, which is a Zulu word meaning coming together, which was the Pacific answer of the Black community. And by the way, color doesn't mean anything to me. Okay, to the regime of apartheid. We need all of us to come together, because this is not about one or some to fight against, to change the things. It's a matter and the subject of every single father in this world to change it, especially the one who knows a little. So we all have the power to do some things. Well, let's come together. Shlanganani. Here we are.
And we are
But
all consuming more and more data.
Absolutely. It seems that we are just on time. I don't know. I see 6:00. Even if we wanted to do that, I'm not quite sure we will be able to do it. I cannot even believe this is 1 hour we are talking.
I know. You go by so fast. But the common thing is very clear. So yeah. Should we open up for Q&A, or are we what's our next step here?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank you for the interview. Thank you for, I would say, welcoming my craziness and my vision over electronics in the future. And thanks to, I said also ITU for giving us the stage and allowing us to speak and to disclose and to present Immersion4, I would say, all around, and as well all the idea and everything which is related to it. So yeah. So what I would like to say is there is, I would say, the neural network, ready for question and answers, and more than willing to answer everything. And of course, if some of you want to get my email address, serge@immersion4.com, easy to reach me. Only an email away.
And we will have a networking session after this. And for those of you who would like more questions answered, and feel free to follow up with Serge, and then he will make sure to follow up with you to get all your questions answered.
Thank you, guys. So please join us on the neural network right now. Willing to and more than happy to answer every single question you will have. And thanks again, for your attention and for listening to us. Product is real, technology is real, and benefit of that technology is clearly obvious. And this is a mission statement from Immersion4 and for the entire team. Thank you.
And it's definitely the essence we take action right now. Great. That's we'll see you at the session, neural network session.
Absolutely. See you then.
Thank you for participating in today's AI for Good session. We hope you've learned something new, innovative, and engaging in today's event. We now encourage you to continue the conversation on the live video wall in the neural network. Here you can ask questions, like and comment, share links, complete the poll, connect with interesting profiles, or speak one-on-one using the chat and video function. After the networking session, we invite you to explore the lobby, try the smart matching quiz, visit the virtual exhibits, poster boards, the e-shop, and build your personalized AI for Good program. Let's shape the future of AI for Good.